Welcome to the University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. I am your host, Sharinda Welton, and today we have the wonderful treat and privilege of hosting Miss Siana Altiise. Welcome to the set, Siana.
Hi.
This has been in the planning for quite some time.
It has been.
And it's here. You're here. Yes. And I love that you did that because we have American Sign Language classes on campus, and this is clapping.
Yeah.
This is celebrating. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are a busy, busy woman. You are on national tour, even in these COVID times.
Yeah.
And so for you to take time out of your busy schedule to stop by means so much to us. Because I want to introduce who you are behind the name to our viewers. We had the opportunity to meet last year in Orlando, Florida.
Yes.
You performed, and it was such an amazing experience. And people ask me, what is her genre? And I'm like, please, I need to put her in my pocket and carry her with me to teach you about her genre, because it's not something that's super popular unless you listen to soundscapes on NPR or, you know, something like that. And but you have a special gift you were born with, and from that has expanded your talents for music and discovering how you could use what you were born with to empower others through music, sound, soundscaping. So first of all, tell us about this gift you were born with, because it's very rare.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up watching Oprah, doing a special with a panel of individuals at different ages and how this gift was used and experienced for them.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce it, so please tell us all about it.
So it's called synesthesia. And so it's the breakdown of it, the Latin root is syn, which means together, and aesthesis, which means senses. So it's the together senses. Synesthesia is a blending of the senses where one sense is triggered, but there are two or more sensory responses. And so what I experience is very much like my main or most active response is sound color. And then I'd say sound emotion. And it goes down to emotion color, pain color. It translates to a lot of colorful experiences. And so when it comes to music color or sound color, and I completely differentiate the two. Music is what I consider the music aspect of it is a layering of sounds. So if I'm in a forest, I would say that is more music. If it's a bird chirping, I would say that's a sound, so isolated, like an isolated sound.
Or an isolated note.
An isolated note, yes, right. Thank you. So I experience sound color, music color. And so music color is, if you would imagine like floating colors and shapes and hues and spotlights and things dancing over here and things moving over here, and then they switch places. And then on top of all of that, you still don't have the melody of the voice singing over it, if there is one. Then you have lines or wiggly lines that are spiking or making different shapes in your visual field. And so that's what the color aspect of music looks like. It's a composition of a moving painting. And sound itself would be very sparse, like shapes and colors moving around and bouncing around my visual field.
So if you were asked as a child to graph a piece of music, you wouldn't take the treble clef and the bass clef. You would be drawing on the lines, squares and diamonds and triangles and maybe unconnected circles.
Yes.
Because that's what you're comprehending and seeing.
I learned how to read music, and I was in band from 4th grade to high school.
Which was beneficial, but probably also felt very entrapped.
It did, because when the directors would ask me to go back to measure 15 and let's play da 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 da, I had already had it memorized. I had to memorize everything because the notes were kind of just placeholders, but I had the music in my head already, and I'd practiced and practiced and practiced over and over again, so they never knew that I didn't know how to read. And so whenever they would say, if I ever got it wrong, which of course happened, I would listen to what they said, this is how you're supposed to play it, versus this is how to read it.
Correct. So you were learning the rhythms because they were da 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 da. Yeah. This is how you're supposed to play it, so you could cover.
Right.
But you still learned how to read the music.
Technically in my own language. Yeah.
Yes.
So I created my own, I use my own language in that regard.
So then if a doctor came in and said, what is your pain level 1 to 10, you would be saying
yellow to red.
Yes.
Yellow
could
to red,
we do
or that's
colors?
A blue. Yes. I would never actually ask that though.
No, but that's what you have to
my
transpose in your head.
That happened at the dentist's office not too long ago. I think it was just a small poke, and they said, how does that feel?
What's
and
your
I
pain
almost responded, it's a dark orange. I started laughing to myself, and I'm like, it's like a 6. It's okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes it almost slips out. Or sometimes I get frustrated because words can't capture what I'm actually seeing or experiencing. Yeah. So it feels a little, words seem limiting. Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you for that explanation, because in doing some research for the interview today, I noticed that with how you create the music, it's layered, and you explain that, but oftentimes you say, I'm not on drugs, this is not, and it's because you don't have the time in your presentations to walk through and explain what we've just talked about. But with that base, now as we talk, it makes more sense, and people aren't going to say, what's she on?
Right, yeah, hopefully.
This is my natural high. I was born with it, exactly. And I've just learned to grow from there. And you're a very colorful person on the outside too, and part of that, I'm sure, is because you've been through a journey of learning to accept yourself. And not what society is saying you have to be, because you've never fit in that box.
Never. I've tried.
And that's a gift and a torture at the same time, depending on where you're at in your journey. Yeah,
definitely. It's been, even growing up, my mom didn't know how to, how do you nurture a child with, she's already artistic, but then she has an extra layer. of artistry as well, and I would get frustrated and just toss what I was doing
and
to
she
the side.
Probably didn't want to go in and explain to people she has this condition, because they hear condition and then you have a problem.
Yes.
It blocks people from working with you. So you were given a gift of a just very special gentleman in your life around the age of 13, 14, who you attribute to being an amazing mentor throughout your life.
Yes.
He was able to see, and ironically, it was through ROTC, which is a military focused training program where students can determine if they want to go further in the career of military. So that sounds really bizarre. We're talking about all these special gifts and how you've felt trapped, and then you sign up and go, take me and train me. But that's where you were given the gift of this gentleman who could see and really empower you. So what was his name?
Sergeant Jeff Kennedy. He lives in, he and his wife now live in Kentucky, Louisville, technically Louisville. But yeah, he was my JROTC instructor, one of them, the best one. And he took me right under his wing. And I was dedicated, I was driven, but then I was also a teenager, and I was confused, and I was making hasty decisions, and he saw right through that. And he has seen right through it and has seen me through. I'm 33 now, and that was 20 years ago almost. So he has called me out. He's encouraged me. He's told me the awful truth of what I need to hear in the moments, but loves me, as his own daughter, and it's amazing. He's literally brought me into his family. And so, he has seen, he saw the gold years before I even knew that it could ever exist. I was just...
But with him and your mom working together, you were able to stay on a track that has led you literally internationally.
Yes.
There are not a lot of people that can proudly say they have lived in China for 5 years. And you had that opportunity. And not only to live there and thrive, but do what you are called to do, which is music.
Yes.
And you did all types.
Yes.
So tell us about that journey.
Oh,
how
that was
exciting.
such a crazy journey.
What is jazz like in Chinese?
Jazz is beautiful.
Because they have their style of jazz also. So were you doing both the Chinese jazz and rock, and are you fluent in Chinese, or were you there as an American working with Americans celebrating the American culture music?
Oh no,
Tell us.
you had that option, but you missed a lot if that was the life that you wanted to live. So actually, when I initially went to China, it was to be an English teacher, a foreign language instructor, which was amazing. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I taught 17 classes a week.
I was going to say a day.
Yeah, let's scratch
I know that they are very focused, but wow.
17 classes a week with about 100 students in each class. No air conditioning, summer months. You can imagine it was
humidity.
It was intense.
Yeah.
But it was so rewarding. I was the first African American that most of these kids had ever seen. Their parents, their grandparents. I lived out in the rural area. Public transportation, like the metro station didn't even go out there. So I had to get off of the metro and then take a bus to where I lived. It was very far, but I chose to live out there because I wanted to learn Mandarin. I just threw myself right in smack dab in the middle of the culture so that I was forced to learn if I wanted to eat and get around and such. So I started there. The company that I went there with, every year they had like a teacher's band. And so I was like, well, why don't I just give it a shot? There were like 11 of us in this band. We played at a bar on Saturday nights. We brought all of our friends and we had a good time. We lasted about 2.5 months together. Then we were just like, the drummer left and then another guy left, and I'm like,
well, that's the story of musicians.
Right. That's how everybody got their start.
Yep, that's the way it works.
I realized one night that I was singing. I was really angry at the drummer actually, but I decided, you know what? Instead of being frustrated at him directly, I'll just sing it into the song. And I think it was Set Fire to the Rain. I was singing Adele's Set Fire to the Rain. And I sang it that night much different than I'd ever sang it because there was a lot more emotion that I'd put into it. And I realized how much better I felt afterwards. I'm like, okay, I want that again. So I started looking for other bands to sing with. I couldn't find any, so I started going to open mics. 5 open mic nights a week, sleeping on friends' couches, finding different areas. It was a lot of work, but I found artists, I found other musicians. So I started singing jazz, I started singing rock, I started singing every genre that I could just to expose myself to those styles. And as time went on, I started getting opportunities to sing at different places with different bands, different people. Within the first year of me singing, I had already sung with 7 different bands, and I was leading 4 of them on my own. So it just started picking up from there. I ended up no longer teaching, and then I started singing full time. And I was traveling around China singing. I was traveling within my city singing. I started helping other bands find opportunities to sing, restaurants. It was amazing.
And with that experience, did you find that the government accepted you? Or at any time did you feel that they were watching you as an American and you were moving so much that they were watching you more carefully? Or did you feel like they saw you as the artist you were and they empowered you to continue because you weren't causing any ripples? You were just going in, doing your thing, supporting the culture. You were learning the language.
Yes.
So what an
it was
awesome experience.
Just big benefit to the culture. Yeah, big time.
And big benefit to you coming back our way and being able to understand the culture and the language because home was Miami growing up.
Yes.
And then you went to China, and I know there were other places in between there, college. And then you landed in Atlanta. And I am thrilled for you that you have not been on one TED Talks. You've been on multiple. And when I saw the one for Peachtree, I was so excited because I've had the honor of going down to Atlanta numerous times for different conferences. I'm very familiar with Peachtree. And so it made it more fun for me to watch that and watch the different people that were part of that, because I've been down there and enjoyed it. And you just feel more connected.
Yes.
So there is a population growing there of Mandarin.
Yes.
And in addition to that, we have a little Hollywood there. The music industry is, forget about it.
Right.
And then you've got the hippie communities. I've been there, check those out. So, I mean, there's just so much. So what are you doing with your passions and with your music? And you've got to check her out on TED Talks. But what are you doing with your talents there?
So now what I'm doing is leading relaxation experiences, what I'm calling sensory experiences. And so I'm teaching and helping people explore their senses and what works for them. And then I'm I'm giving them space to practice those approaches in safe spaces. And so I teach about taste and how we can intentionally choose different flavors or different teas, different foods that help us relax. And then we'll try it. We'll have we have like a platter, or we'll have a small buffet, and we try the different foods. How does your body respond to it? Teaching everyone how to respond
and pay attention
and pay attention. Increasing self-awareness. And so then we go to sound. What types of sound? Is it nature sound? So I play. Is it this sound? Is it this? And we go to touch. What type of touch helps you relax? Let's practice. Kinetic or massage. Different parts of the body, how are you responding? Let's pay attention. Here's a sound experience while you practice. And so we go through the 5 senses, and they walk out with more tools than they walked in with.
Which helps them then if they are in holistic health. I know when you go to a chiropractor or you go to a massage therapist, if you understand what touches benefit your body depending on what your stress levels are or what you've eaten and how your digestion's working, it's a big machine that people have. In the Western culture, we haven't been gifted the opportunities to learn to listen to the different parts and then put them together as our own orchestration, our own bodies.
And learning how to work the machine.
And listening to it and being able to better describe it to our healthcare providers.
Yes.
I often get made fun of because I can do that for the doctors, and they're like,
that's so
people
funny.
Don't usually know how to do that. But we get the right tests done, and I'm saving a lot of money, I get it. And you are touring with that right now also. You're doing corporate, community, and colleges, universities. And yes, COVID has slowed some of that down and reworking some of the processes. But what's really exciting, there's still opportunity and there's still ways of doing it with masks on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've been teaching online, and I'm leading small curated workshops. But in the meantime, and throwing you completely for a loop, I started learning about experience design and how to specifically design experiences. So now I've started throwing that in there as well. And so now I'll start teaching online, so e-learning classes with sensory experiences as well. And so this has been, COVID, as harsh and as abrupt as it's been, has given me the time and space to explore, so that now coming out, I'm able to give even more than what I had going on.
And what you're preparing and what you're giving are gifts that are more accessible, because not everyone can get to a major metropolitan area or to a performing arts center or to a university
or
campus.
Yoga studio. Right.
So that's really cool.
Yeah,
really
it's been
cool.
exciting.
So the music side of it. I've got to touch on this with what you were describing. You have people that are coming in from all walks of life. So for some people, the subway is their comfort. That is, but for someone else, that's going to be very harsh, invasive, painful. So in your sessions, do you also work with giving one another permission and understanding where people are receiving their senses and their peace from?
Right. So I went to Malaysia to test this out. That sounds very
It was part
polar.
of research.
Right, it was. I wanted to know that my music affected people cross-culturally versus just in the country that I'm familiar with.
And this is Malaysia, not China. So
Malaysia.
this is a next step
Yes.
in your research.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm finding that it is perpetually received similarly. Cross-culturally, there's been such a unanimous response. And so for people who, and picking on the example that you just used, the subway, for example, we become familiar with things that we taught ourselves to accept. Once we realize that we have an option to let it go, or once we realize that we have an option and we consider something else, that then can replace our initial choice.
The requirements.
Right. And so my only goal is to expose. I don't want to change anyone's mind in the workshops. I want to expose them. When you listen to a bird chirp, it doesn't have to shake the floor. It doesn't have to shake the ground that you're standing on.
It doesn't have to be part of the song. It could be a noise.
Right. It can be exactly. And so here's another option. Let's see how you respond to this. Because for some people, silence, it's really stressful. So let's put a bird in the background, or let's put some moving trees in the background. And how does that experience sound to you? How is your body responding, right? Because it all goes back to self-awareness. And what's cool is that once the workshops, the in-person workshops come back, now I'm using the silent disco headphones.
Yep.
So
I'm familiar with this.
People we're in community, but you're in your own space. You're having an individualized experience in community. So if you're closing your eyes, other people aren't really paying that much attention to you. You don't have to worry about their head being on the swivel because they're in their own environment as well, and they're experiencing themselves in that. So it's been a varied response. In the workshops,
But it's consistent.
But it's consistently unanimous that people walk out learning more about themselves and expressing the interest in getting to know themselves more, right? Moms, dads, once you hit, the corporate and you're working so many hours, it's often the people that are at the very top and the very bottom who are often forgotten about the quickest and the soonest. And we think, oh, well, they have enough money to figure things out themselves, and oh, well, they'll find the time to figure it out themselves. But
we all need that support.
We all need it, yeah.
We all need community. We all need safe space.
And we all need to
safe
know
sound.
ourselves because we often sacrifice who we are for the greater good, or for others, or for family, or for office, or for work, or for company. So I just want to bring the focus back, because if we lose ourselves, we lose our family, we lose our jobs, we lose everything that we're trying to impress or keep around.
Yeah. So Siana Altiise, and that's Altiis. E. Thank you. And it is sianaaltise.com. And you are also on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all the social medias. And you're also available on YouTube.
Yes.
People can find different videos of you interacting with people, and of course the TED Talks.
Yeah.
Is there any other type of media or ways that you're available that you would like to share with our watching audience today?
On Spotify as well. I'm going to be releasing a guided meditation album within the next month. It's actually been a lot harder to record in silence in a big city, right? A lot harder than I anticipated. So you guys can look forward to that within the next month. I'm super excited. I can't wait to hear it myself because it's been
because
extreme.
You're doing it in packages.
It is so hard. But it's going to be so worth it, I promise. So excited about it.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. It's been fun learning from you as well as about you. And I hope that you have found what Siana has shared with us beneficial. Maybe you are learning something about your sensory that no one's ever talked to you about, and maybe it explains something about who you are and how you operate. And if you have more questions or are interested in exploring this more, there's a lot of information out there online, as well as Siana is happy to work with you and direct you to things in your area. So thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you on the next University of Findlay Art and Culture Show. Until then, be well.